Lonely Monk Productions.
I don't know if y'all have heard the Memphis Ice version of Mind Eraser by Nicole Atkins yet, but yo!
That's my Jawn! Hey yo, displace the guilt and...
What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I am your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. John Doe, a.k.a. Johnny Come Lately, the new kid in town, a.k.a. You're gonna miss me when I'm John. You're gonna miss me by my hair. You're gonna miss me everywhere. Oh, you're gonna miss me when I'm John, a.k.a. Nate 3.0, back at it again, here with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. How we doing, gang? In a little bit, we will have my conversation with WALLIS. It's an awesome chat, and I hope you dig it. You know, WALLIS may only be 16 years old, but she has such a love for music and a firm grasp on the kinds of music that she likes and the kinds of music that she wants to create. It got me reminiscing over my own musical journey and where I was at her age, which was, well, I had no clue who I was or who I wanted to be. Honestly, I may still not. So to see not just the success that she has had in the past year, but to hear how well she understands how to channel her creativity, well, it's inspiring. If you haven't visited the website in a while, or if you've just never been there before, we just went through a little redesign. I created the original layout long before there was much content on there. So now that we've been going on strong for a little while, I wanted to put on a fresh coat of paint. There are a few different sections on the main page, like there's some suggested listening links to a few pods that I think kind of exemplify the show in the best way. And there's a section of some of the pieces I wrote before we were a podcast, which are pretty great if I do say so myself. And like I said last episode, thanks to the fine folks over at TeePublic, we now have a Yo, That's My Jawn store. That's right, we got t-shirts and other assorted merchandise available if you click the shop link. So go check it out, www.yothat'smyjawn.com. Now, here's a little story I got to tell. This past week was the 35th anniversary of an album that changed my life. That album, Licensed to Ill by the Beastie Boys, wasn't my entry into hip-hop, but it was the first hip-hop album that seemed like it was made for me. See, by the time Licensed to Ill came out, I was already knee-deep into my love affair with hip-hop, which started earlier that year in '86 when, by chance, someone left a copy of Raising Hell by Run DMC in the tape deck of a rental car my parents rented while ours was in the shop. And the obsession was immediate, birthed by the line, "Now Peter Piper picked peppers, but Rum Rock rhymes." It was over. Right there. From then on out, I became a young 9-year-old b-boy. I rocked parachute pants and carried a broken-down cardboard box trying to pop, lock, and windmill. And I wanted to rhyme. And when Licensed to Ill dropped, it was an awakening. See, I was a kid from the burbs. And even though MCA, Ad Rock, and Mike D were all New York City guys, Ill felt suburban. And yes, 35 years later, I know that there's some sort of racial component to that because they're white. But the Beasties felt like my guys. They were funny and irreverent, and they were everything I wanted to be. Actually, that's not completely true. They weren't. Ad Rock was. MCA was the nicest lyricist in the crew, and Mike D had hilarious lines, but to 9-year-old me, Ad Rock was the coolest cat that ever did live. Honestly, to 44-year-old me, Ad Rock is the coolest cat that ever did live. One of the things that I think most added to the success of Licensed to Ill was the use of samples and interpolations that Rick Rubin used in the construction of the music. He had Zeppelin and Lowrider and more Zeppelin and Sabbath and The Clash and CCR. It was all the music I was already familiar with. It was like Rick took what worked on putting Run DMC with Aerosmith and he injected human growth hormone into it for the Beasties. I love this album, and I love those three boys called Beastie. So, In honor of the 35th anniversary of the release of License to Ill, here is my little acoustic cover of Paul Revere, complete with a little bit of the Yo, That's My Jawn theme song tagged on at the end there for good measure. Enjoy. Oh, you all want to hear a story? You want to hear a little story? Now, here's a little story I got to tell about three bad brothers you know so well. It started way back in history with that rock MCA and me, Mike D. Then had a little horsey named Paul Revere. Just me and my horsey and a quart of beer. Right across the land, kicking up sand. Sheriff's posse's on my tail cause I'm in demand. One lonely beastie I be, all by myself without nobody. The sun is beating down on my baseball hat. The air is getting hot, the brew is getting flat. Looking for a girl, I ran into a guy. His name is MCA. I said howdy, he said hi. He told a little story that sounded well rehearsed. 4 days on the run and that he's dying of thirst. The brew was in my hand and he was on my tip. His voice was hoarse, his throat was dry. He asked me for a sip. He said, can I get some? I said, you can't get none. Had a chance to run and pulled out a shotgun. Quick on the draw, I thought I'd be dead. He put the gun to my head and this is what he said. Now my name is MCA, I got a license to kill. I think you know what time it is, it's time to get ill. Now what do we have here? An outlaw and his fear. I run this land, do you understand? Do I make myself clear? I stepped into the wind, he had a gun, I had a grin. You think the story's over, but it's ready to begin. Now, I got the gun, you got the brew. You got two choices of what you can do. It's not a tough decision as you can see. I can blow you away or you can ride with me. I said I'll ride with you if you can get me to the border. The sheriff's after me for what I did to his daughter. I did it like this, I did it like that. I did it with a wiffle ball bat. So, I'm on the run, the cops got my gun. And right about now it's time to have some fun. The King Ed Rock, that is my name. And I know the fly spot where they got the champagne. We rode for 6 hours and we hit the spot. The beat was bumping and the girlies was hot. This dude was staring like he knows who we are. So we took an empty spot next to him at the bar. MCA said, yippee-yo, you know this kid. I said, I did, but I know he did. The kid said, get ready, cause this ain't funny. My name's Mike D and I'm about to get money. Pulled out the jammy and aimed it at the sky. He yelled, stick 'em up and let two fly. Hands went up, people hit the floor. He raised the two kids that ran for the door. I'm Mike D and I get respect. Your cash and your jewelry is what I expect. MCA was with it and he's my ace. So I grabbed the piano player and I punched him in the face. Piano player's out, the music stopped. His boy had beef and he got caught. Mike D grabbed the money, MCA snatched the gold. I grabbed two girlies and a beer that's cold. Beastie Boys, Paul Revere, Nate Runkle. Yo, that's my Jawn. Don't forget, yo. Displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be measured. You ain't being judged, you won't get a score. So what the fuck is you faking for? If you like it, you like it, you live it, don't quit it. You feel what you feel, man, you with it, come with it. Don't feel a bit ashamed. Even if the world thinks that shit is lame, tilt your head back, go ahead and get gone. Tilt your head back, go ahead and get gone. Said tilt your head back, tilt your head back, and shout to the world, yo, that's my Jawn. That's my Jawn. My guest today is a singer-songwriter who last year went viral with her brilliant track, Lonely Christmas, a song that so perfectly captured the feelings shared by a world in the midst of a global pandemic that kept us separated from the ones we love at the one time of the year when we value their company the most. The video for that song rocketed to the top of the What's Hot page of Reddit with over 15,000 upvotes. It was shared by Ellen DeGeneres, was playlisted on NPR's New Music Friday, it was included in Paste Magazine's Holiday Sampler, and it has been covered by dozens of news and media outlets around the world. Her new single, Another Day, is available now on Apple Music and Spotify, and the music video available on YouTube. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show, WALLIS. I don't want to lose the glorious... All right, I think it kicked in. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the great WALLIS. WALLIS, thank you for joining me here on Yo, That's My Jawn.
Thank you so much for having me on That's My Jawn. Got some Philly interviews. Thanks, Nate.
Absolutely. So I always like to start off by telling people how I kind of found out about their work and stuff like that. And obviously, this will probably come as no surprise, but last year there was this song, and you made it, and it was sent to me by a good friend of mine, Andrew, and he was like, "You have to check this out. This is an unbelievable Christmas song," because he knows I am a Christmas fanatic when it comes to music. As a matter of fact, every year I started doing a Christmas sing-along live stream with ukulele Christmas songs. Anyway, enough about me. So he sent me your link, and I was like, oh my God, this is so phenomenal. Fast forward a year later, I'm talking to Mike Farley, and he's like, oh, I'm working with this client, WALLIS. I think she would really fit in perfectly. If you'd like to talk to her, I can set that up. And I was like, holy crap, it's the Christmas girl. So I'm really excited to have you here to discuss all of this good stuff. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up. I mean, you're still growing up, but where you're from. And
Yeah, I'm totally still growing up. But yeah, I live in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia. I'm 16 years old. And I basically grew up being surrounded by music because my family's always loved music, and my dad grew up writing a lot of music just as a hobby. And so because of that, I grew up with a love for music since I was constantly surrounded by it. Our friends were, always coming in and out of our house and having little jam sessions with us. So, that's where my love for music really started. And then now I write my own music in collaboration with my dad, and sometimes we record with my sisters on the track. And and my song Lonely Christmas, last year I put out my first song, and it sort of blew up on YouTube after getting some hits on Reddit, which was crazy. And then Ellen DeGeneres reposted it on her Instagram and Twitter, which was absolutely insane. And Now I'm continuing to put out music, and that's sort of where I am now, which is crazy.
That is awesome. I mean, it's such a crazy, fast story, too. So you said there was a lot of music when you were younger around the house and all. What kind of music were your parents playing? What were you kind of exposed to back then? Like, what was?
I feel like growing up, I was exposed to a pretty decent variety of music because my dad always played a lot of rock and roll in the car for us. And at the time I, had no idea what I really was listening to, but I just knew that it was awesome, and we would just have a good time in the car listening to rock and roll. And then I feel like just in my house, there was I feel like I grew up listening to a lot of Norah Jones playing. My mom loved playing Norah Jones.
Okay.
And so, it really just depended on the mood. And I feel like they would play such a wide variety of genres, and still to this day I love so many different genres of music. And I feel like when I write, I like to blend as many genres into one. And I feel like that, from all of my inspirations growing up, that's what inspires me now as I write with my dad and alone. But yeah, I feel like I was exposed to tons as a kid, which makes me feel really lucky, because I feel like when you're a kid who's exposed to music, it really helps you to find your love for it at such a young age. And then you can carry that with you, for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Oh, that's unbelievable. And you can definitely kind of sense that kind of wide birth of genre influence in your music. I grew up almost the exact same way. You know, my dad was really into rock music. My mom was really into like kind of more of a pop bent. But my dad also played like, you know, he introduced me to like Motown and reggae and stuff that. And, you know, and one of his favorite artists was Harry Nilsson, who like, you know, his music is all over the place and stuff like that. So, you know, it was kind of built in my core, and it influences me to kind of reach out. And that was kind of the birth of Yo, That's My Jawn. Was just there's a lot of stuff that I don't know if you heard the tagline of this website podcast brand thing, but it is displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure, because I don't believe in guilty pleasures. And I think, you know, because of that wide berth of genre growing up, I think that's where all that comes from. But so when did you start playing music? When did that first?
Well, when I was probably around like from the ages 5 to 7, somewhere in there, I took my first couple piano lessons, and I did that for a little while. And then I stopped taking lessons, and I got more into singing. And then I did some, you know, local choirs, community theater, local cabarets, whatever I could do to perform. I took some dance classes. Any chance that I got to sing or perform, I took that opportunity. And then in 7th grade, I did my last year in public middle school, and then I switched to an art school for a couple of years where I picked up piano again, and I studied musical theater a bit, and I took some vocal classes. And now I'm back at public school, but I'm continuing to work on my piano abilities and playing guitar. And I just took my first drum lesson last week, which is exciting.
Really? Congrats.
I'm trying to work on my musicianship, you know, all around, because I think that will make me a stronger writer. And, you know, I sing all the time. But yeah, I had off and on lessons as a kid, but, you know, you also can learn a lot from YouTube nowadays. I feel like I do that.
Yeah. You know, the listeners have probably heard me say this 700 million times, but I taught myself how to play guitar while working the front of a music store where the owner was teaching guitar in the back. And
my gosh, wow.
So like they're learning. I just said this last week, and everybody's going to go, "We heard this, Nate," but whatever. I'm telling you.
I haven't.
So you haven't heard it. But are you saying you didn't listen? No, I'm just kidding. So but while they were playing like Mary Had a Little Lamb, I was out teaching myself Led Zeppelin in the front of the store. So like, you know, that's the kind of, awesome. You mentioned musical theater. That's another one of my major Jawns. It's a favorite of mine. Do you have a favorite show? Do you?
Favorite show. Well, I just saw Hadestown on Broadway actually this past weekend, which I haven't seen a Broadway show in so long. And I went with my friends, and it was so much fun, which I thought that was a really interesting show because it's a little different than, you know, the traditional Broadway shows that I grew up being exposed to. So I really loved that. And there were the 3 women, I think they're called the Fates.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah. And they, you know, they sing in harmony the whole show. And that reminds me of me and my sisters. And I was really inspired by that. And I showed them as soon as I got home. I was like, listen to this. Like, we could, you know, if you guys want to do this, we could totally do this. And it would be so much fun. So I thought that was really awesome. But if I had to narrow it down to one favorite, what's your favorite?
So I used to be, and I know I just said displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure, but one of my enormous guilty pleasures is Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals.
Oh yeah.
But if I had to pick a favorite, and you know, Steven Spielberg currently about to release it, is West Side Story. West Side Story is just musically and as a film itself just so perfect. Like, there are very few perfect things out there, but if someone were to ask me pick one perfect thing, I'd say, hey, go watch West Side Story. Well, maybe it's a little problematic now, but so maybe it's not perfect. maybe of its time it was perfect, but you know, there's some things we might want to change around. But yeah. So when did you start music theater? Was that around the same time as piano lessons and stuff, or?
I think I started piano a little bit before that, and then in like 5th grade, I did my first community theater show. And from that point on, I was hooked. You know, it was one of the most fun things I'd ever done. And I feel like there's something really special about theater and really just performance in general, when you're performing with a band or when you're performing with, in a play or whatever, there's something really special about the bond that you create with people because you're spending so much time doing this thing that you're all passionate about. So in that time, everyone gets so close and there's a really special connection. And then there's also the connection with the audience. So it's a very connective experience. And I think as a kid, I found that to be very inspiring. And that's what I guess inspired me to continue down the path of music and performance, just because you get a live reaction, which is really awesome. And then you get to talk to people before and after. And it's just really nice that you can be in a space with people who are all passionate about that.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Do you still act at all, or is that still like a thing you're looking at, or is it just primarily music at this point? I've
been primarily focused on music for like the last year. Before that, I was doing a lot of acting and musical theater and acting both. But I think I'll always have a little interest for it just because I've always really loved it. I think right now I'm mainly focusing on music, but gosh, if I had an acting opportunity, I'm sure I would take it. Yeah, totally. So, writing music, when did you have, even prior to, I guess, being able to perform it or whatnot, like, were you writing like poetry and stuff like that early on, or was it all at once? Were you just like, I now have this instrument, let me create, let me get my hands dirty in this? Well, I feel like as a kid, I wrote songs all the time. I feel like everyone wrote songs as a kid. I know they're terrible, but I enjoyed it. And I think once I started understanding music a little bit better and being actively surrounded by music, that's when I could write better chord progressions or harmonies, melody lines. Once I had a better understanding for music, that's when I really fell in love with harmonies and writing. Because I'll just sit on my phone with my headphones and I'll just record my voice on GarageBand and I'll just stack up the harmonies. And that's the most natural way for me to write, either that or just sitting at the piano. And it's very therapeutic for me. So I think, I'm like, what was your original question? I'm just
No, you were in it. Was just when you started writing, like how it came about. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry, I got off track. But yeah, it started at when I was a kid, just because I enjoyed it, and now I do the same thing because it's very therapeutic for me, and it's just very satisfying. I really enjoy the process, and if I can sit down at the piano for an hour, I will, and same when I'm just recording vocals and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So you're writing songs and you're performing out. You have this love of the stage. I guess, was it a conscious decision prior to Lonely Christmas? Like, all right, here's my shot. Let me try to sit down and record something and release something, or how did that come about? Or was it just like, oh, here's a song I wrote and I hope people like it. And then people just kind of, a million and some people decided they did like it. How did?
Yeah. I mean, we were in the middle of a pandemic and my dad had the foundation of Lonely Christmas that he started writing. And then he showed it to me and I really liked it. And we talked about how it seemed like it would be a Christmas song. We knew from the start it would be a Christmas song. It just had that vibe. And we were like, you know what? I think this is the year to do it. I think we just got to finish it. And I think this might resonate with people because there's not much going on right now. And this is what, I don't know, it just felt necessary to us. So in November, we just were finishing writing it. We're like, we got to get this done. It's going to be December soon. And most people who put out Christmas songs, they put it out like at least 3 months in advance so people can actually listen to it during the holiday season. And we're like, oh, we're cutting it close. Like it's getting very close to Christmas. So anyway, we wrote it together and we recorded it. And it was so much fun for me because him, because that was our first song that we collaborated on. And it's something that we both love so much. And then I uploaded it on YouTube. And I just hoped that anyone who could relate to it or could enjoy the music would, I I don't know, just enjoy it. I just hope that people would like it. And if they wanted to watch it, then, that they would have the place to do that. And then it had a very positive reaction. And I feel very lucky that it had the reaction that it did, because I feel like that gave me a little bit of hope that maybe I could pursue this as a career. And I don't know, it was encouraging. And it was nice to see how people all around the world sort of connected to the sentiment of it, because I think it was something that everyone was feeling at the time. So, hearing other people relate to that makes, I don't know, made the whole situation just feel a little bit like we weren't as lonely,
Yeah. And it's crazy. And I don't say this to be dismissive at all, but the fact that you're so young and created something that struck a nerve, not just, with, people your same age or people younger than you or anything like that. But it literally, like I said, when I first heard it, I was like absolutely blown away. Like you said, it resonates, and it really did hit kind of the zeitgeist, like what everyone was feeling, but not saying. And, I think you made a Christmas hit. That's, and that's very hard to do. Even I would say it's even more challenging than just writing like a standard song. Not to say that writing a song's easy, but to write something that resonates, especially a Christmas song, is phenomenal. So take a bow. No, but how fast did that happen? Like, so you upload it. Was it like a slow roll, or was it just one day you turned over and your phone had like a million notifications on it?
It felt like it happened very fast since we released it in December. And then the whole month of December just felt kind of hectic because there was so much going on. And I think the original start, it was like all of the people that we know were kind of interested because it was the first song that I released. So they were like, oh, I wonder what WALLIS just released. Like, this is her first song. And that she's done theater and done these cabarets and stuff locally. Like, I wonder what her song is. And then I think some of them liked it. So then, some of my friends would post on their Instagram stories, and then it would gain some, attention from that. And then when it was posted on Reddit, it got a bunch of upvotes, which then got it a lot more views on YouTube. And then eventually it found its way to Ellen, which kind of, elevated it a bit as well. And that all happened super fast. And then I started getting interviews and all of that type of stuff. And I never done that before, and I was so nervous because I was like, I don't know how to interview. I don't know what I'm going to tell them. Like, this is my first song. I don't know if I'm going to have anything substantial for, like, I don't know if I'm going to be interesting enough. You know what I mean? So there was just so much going on, and it was all very exciting and overwhelming, and it was just crazy. But it felt like it happened super fast because there was so much going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that it happens, period. But that it happened with your first song. I can't even imagine what that's like. Like was there any fear in kind of following that up or what to do next? Like,
oh my gosh, totally. Because some people were saying like, oh, you've got the attention now. Like, you have to release before no one's paying attention anymore. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. I'm brand new at this, So there was a lot of pressure to quickly release things. And my dad and I we don't want to release anything unless it's something that we're proud of. So we're not just going to put out like, partial content because that's what people want. We want to put out something that we're happy with and proud of. So it tends to take us a bit longer because of that. But there was a lot of people saying like, take this attention while you have it, whatever. And yeah, it was crazy. There were a lot of different opinions being thrown at me, and then like random people in my DMs who were like, don't sign any record labels. And they're like, oh, we want to sign you. And I'm like, I don't know. There's just a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it would be a lot to kind of manage through, but I do think, and I get really sentimental and kind of protective of creativity and music and stuff like that. But I think you made the right choice. Like when you have something, you'll be ready to do it, and I do understand very minimally. I'm an old guy, but I do understand like trying to capitalize on being viral. But I also think that sometimes is the death knell of a lot of viral stars, is that they try to follow it up too fast, and it's almost like either a mimicry of the first thing they did, or it pales in comparison. And I think you have very successfully done that with Another Day. Tell me a little bit about how that came about.
So Another Day was my song that I released after Lonely Christmas, and that also happened sort of fast. We recorded that in December and the very beginning of January, right after we released Lonely Christmas. And that's when people were saying, you need to put out a new song. So my dad and I were like, all right, this one's the next closest that we've got to being done. And, I really like this one. So we worked on that one together. And we actually were in Miami at the time because we had planned that a trip to Miami far before Lonely Christmas happened, because we're like, oh, we're going to be in quarantine. We're just going to be stuck in the house all winter. Maybe we can just go as a family to Miami just so we can, be in the sun for a little bit.
Sure.
Since we're going to be quarantined all winter together. So anyway, we were in Miami and we're like, okay, well, we don't have our at-home setup to record. And so my dad calls Criteria Recording Studios and he's like, hey, we've got to record a song. Can we come in here? Like he just was talking to them about what was available. And they're like, oh yeah, it's like pretty empty because of COVID and stuff. And we needed some session musicians. They're like, yeah, we've got some great session musicians. So anyway, we went into Criteria to record our session musicians for another day. And then my vocals and my sister's vocals for Another Day. And it was so much fun. That studio is crazy. I felt so lucky that I got to go in there. It felt like, Disney World. Cause that's like, for me and my dad were like, oh my gosh, this is like our Disney World.
Yeah.
And it was so exciting. And we got to record in the same room that the Bee Gees recorded in, which is insane. And our session musicians were awesome. And it just was so much fun. But we also had to be super cautious because of COVID, and we were all wearing masks the whole time. And I had to get a COVID test, like, in the back of at the back of someone's car outside of Criteria Recording Studios. Cause it was just crazy because we were trying to be cautious and everything. And then someone in Criteria got a positive COVID test. So we had to stop recording and we didn't go in because, we wanted to be safe and we knew that we had a flight home. So anyway, we recorded the primary vocals in Criteria. Then we came home and we finished all of our mixing and all of that type of stuff at home. And then we released Another Day.
Yeah, it is yet again just another catchy hook. Like you are definitely a hook maker. I will bestow that praise on you. I love a good hook, and the first time I heard Another Day, like I was literally walking around. I work a day job. This isn't really keep the lights on this job, interviewing people, but this is more for fun. But no, I was walking around my day job, just like humming. Like it's a very, very, very catchy song. You mentioned some of the session players and being in the Bee Gees place. Like when you come and you're kind of surrounded by, if I recall, like Barry Gibb's bass player played bass on this track. Like can you like appreciate it in the moment? Like I can tell just the way you just described it, like looking back on it, but like at the moment, or are you just like, hey, you kind of messed that up. If you could just do that one more time. I understand that you play with Barry Gibb, but this is the real deal now. Like, are you able to like kind of navigate that in the moment?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, it was so exciting just to see any musicians playing live, because it had been in the middle of a pandemic, so I hadn't seen any live music in so long. And then to work with these amazing session musicians and just get to watch them record, it just felt so exciting. It felt so grand to hear my own song with like horns in the background and a really awesome bass player. I don't know. It felt like this, I don't know. For me, it felt like a spiritual experience because that's something that I'm so passionate about. But yeah, and they were just super chill and great to work with. And, my dad and I are just watching and listening to them and telling them like, oh, can you do this again, but play it in this octave or do it in this part a little more quickly, whatever. But yeah, it was just really awesome. It was just a real happy place for me because they were just really positive and talented. It was just awesome.
Yeah. You mentioned that not just on this song, but on on Lonely Christmas, that your sisters also play a part in your music. What was the decision like to do that? Like, because you said that in GarageBand you're kind of layering your own vocals. Yeah, I gotta say you got to be a great big sister to kind of share the mic, because I have a little sister and she's going nowhere near my microphone. But how did that decision come about? Was it out of necessity, or were you just like, hey, let's, kind of Partridge Family this up?
Yeah, well, I mean, I sing a ton of my own harmonies. I record myself singing my own harmonies a ton, but any opportunity that they're interested in singing with me, I want them to sing with me. It's really a matter of if they want to or not. So really? If they are interested, I'm like, please, like, because Marin's voice, the texture of her voice is just so incredible. I think it adds different dimension than just singing your own harmonies, because sometimes singing your own harmonies can have a bit of a almost robotic sound because it's you layered with yourself. But when you have three different voices that blend well together, it creates more of a texture that you can't create on your own. And I think there's something really special about having sibling harmonies because you have the same blood, so there is a part of it that is just connective, even though everyone has different voices. And Soleil is still so young that her voice is mature. She sounds like a kid still, but she has a mature child's voice. So it just creates a cool effect. Someone told me that they thought one part that Soleil was singing was me pitched. They thought my voice was pitched. And I thought that was so cool because I was like, no, that's actually my sister singing. She's just younger than me, so her voice is more high pitched. And it's just interesting to hear how that sounds.
Do they play instruments or are they just doing vocals at this point?
Marin doesn't play any instruments, but Soleil plays drums. She's just starting playing drums. She's pretty good. And she's never had a piano lesson, but she can sit at the piano and play by ear. And she just learned how to play a really awesome jazz piece yesterday. Just by looking it up on YouTube and figuring it out by ear. It was really amazing to watch. And she also had like 3 guitar lessons and is already really good. So she has very, very natural music ability. And I'm happy that she's being exposed to it at a young age because she's incredibly talented. So I feel like by the time she's my age, like, look out, world.
Watch out. Yeah. Have you at any point, and this might just be, this might be a suggestion you might want to take. Have you at any point just slid over like a copy of a Haim album and just been like, this could be us?
I am a huge Haim fan. I always thought they were so cool as a kid. And the song The Wire, we listened to so much.
That is one of my favorite songs of all time. It is so good.
Totally. We listened to it all the time as kids. And yeah, I also just think that they always like look so cool. And I just think they're so badass. And I show Marin and Soleil these things. I'm like, hello. Like, first of all, if I ever got to meet Haim, that would be like the best moment of my life. But I mean, yeah, I just showed them that. I'm like, hey, can we take this as inspo? Isn't Haim so awesome?
Right. Yeah. I think I literally, when I heard that, that they were singing background and stuff like that, I was like, oh my God, this is prime Haim real estate. Like,
yeah, they're totally a huge inspiration.
That's cool. I can definitely sense some of that. I also, I'm not going to share it with anybody, but do a pretty mean once you back cover. But anyway, so and then you went and did another video for this, which just came out recently. Do you enjoy the video process, the video making process? Because it seems like you're having so much fun.
You know what? I really do enjoy the video process. It's a lot of fun. However, there are definitely moments that are very hard to film that might not look as hard in the final edited version. For example, in the Another Day music video, there are a lot of clips of me on the beach. And we recorded it during Hurricane Ida.
Oh, geez.
On the beach. So it was very windy, very, very windy. And it was super hard to hear because of that. And also I was wearing a turtleneck that had a cutout on my back. So my back was being pelted by sand the whole time.
Oh, my Lord.
Which was, not the most comfortable. And it was kind of crazy to film, but there are also a lot of moments that I do enjoy where I'm like raging on the beach. I just was going crazy on the beach and it was fun. And then we also got to film in a really cool place in Cape May, that little movie theater room that we're in. It looks like a super cool vintage movie theater. And it was sort of this tiny room in a basement. And we just really liked the vibe of it. And it was just in this really cool sort of Victorian house that we stayed in. And we filmed in the extended version of the Another Day video. You can see us walking through the basement and it looks like an old, almost like not mall, but it sort of almost looks like a shopping area where it goes from a little barber's area, and then it goes to a ice cream shop, and then it goes into this little movie theater. And this was all in the basement of this house, which was crazy.
That's so weird.
And also on that same day, like the lights went out, and it was just crazy. It was crazy stormy. The lights went out, and then we filmed that later on in the day. And our actor friends were there. We have two friends, Laura Maxwell and Austin, and we just were like, "Hey, do you want to film this video with us?" Like, we got to film a music video for Another Day. Do you want to be in it with us? And then we sort of formed this interesting story, and then we just filmed it,
That's cool. That place definitely haunted, right? Like it's
100% haunted.
Yeah.
We were saying that the entire time. It totally seemed haunted. It was a little creepy.
I believe it. So also right around the time that you released that video, you played a live show at 118. How did it go?
Actually, I didn't get to do the 118 show.
Oh, no.
Because the weather was crazy. It was super, super windy and rainy. So I didn't get to do the 118 show. But I did do a couple shows around that time that were really great.
Okay. Yeah. So like how is it playing live? I mean, like, you and pardon the phrase, were kind of musically birthed into the pandemic, right? So what's it like finally getting to make eye contact with people? Because, obviously you have a love of the stage and you love kind of that connection that you make with an audience, and doing so through a webcam is damn near impossible. So what was it like finally getting to reap the spoils of being a musician and actually entertain in person?
It's a lot of fun. I mean, my favorite part is, when you can see in someone's face that they connect to something that you're singing.
Yeah.
Because, that's just a very, human connection in that way. It's just a really cool thing. And then afterwards, when you get to talk to people and they get to tell you, oh, you sang a song that I love, or I don't know, whenever they tell you something encouraging, it's like, just makes you feel really good, and it makes you want to share music more. And I think after seeing comments online, they make you feel good for a moment, but then it's just a word that you see on a screen, rather than after a live performance, you get to make eye contact with another person that you've never met before, or it's someone that you do know, and you get to hear what they actually have to say, and you get to see the person who's saying it to you, which is really cool after, only seeing it on your computer.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's got to be great. It's got to be great to finally like make the connection. And, because you've earned it. I mean, like you spent a year building, kind of this mystique and this kind of, and to be able to finally get out and actually reach out and connect, it's got to feel pretty great. What kind of sets were you like, all original?
Yeah. Well, actually I did some covers and then I did some originals.
Okay. What kind of stuff you covered?
Well, I haven't done that many live shows, so I'm still kind of formulating my set list. I did a variety of covers. I did an Amy Winehouse cover. I did a Florence and the Machine cover. I also did a cover by this artist Eloise that I really like. And I'm trying to think. I did a Bob Moses cover. Nice. And yeah. I got to think about my set list in order. I'm going out of order and I'm forgetting some. Sure.
So what's your approach for coming up? Like, so you obviously have other songs other than two. I can tell not just your love of music, but also like your hustle that I know you're definitely working. Are you working to release an album? This is actually you're a great person to ask because I've now had this conversation with two people and I'm not sure. Are albums still a thing? Do people want albums? Are you working on an album?
I think people still want albums. I mean, I'm working on an EP.
Okay. See, you don't like albums. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not putting that on.
Well, I do like albums. It's just a matter of what I can do now, I think eventually I'll put out an album, but I think right now I'm mainly working on singles and EPs.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when I see that an artist I like is putting out an album, I want to know.
Yeah, no, it's one of these weird things where I just don't understand things anymore. No, but I mentioned this in another episode, but like, you go to someone's Spotify and you're trying to find like a song that you like and you're like, is it on this album? Is it on this album? Where is this song? And then you're like, oh, right, single CPs. There we go. Right. But it's just a new world. I'm just trying to navigate the new world. I'm trying to understand what the kids are hip to. Speaking of kids, like how receptive have classmates been? No jerks, right? I hope.
I mean, occasionally you'll get someone saying something rude, but sometimes people just are messing with you. Sometimes they're just joking with you. Sometimes kids are a little rude, but mainly I've had positive interactions. And since this is my first year back at public school since 7th grade, I actually have been talking to a lot of kids who sort of know who I am, but they've been very pleasant and I've really enjoyed my interactions with them. And it's been really fun, if they're like, oh, I know your Christmas song, or like, I like your music or whatever, or if they somehow know who I am and then they want to say hi, that's kind of crazy to me. Cause I just feel like I'm a kid in public school. And then
because you are. Yeah.
I literally am. Yeah. And I don't think of myself in any other way besides that. And then if someone like comes up to me and is like, oh, can I take a selfie with you? I'm like, it's kind of crazy because I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But it's really nice, And I feel like I've made friends that way.
Sure. Oh, I'm sure. What do you have like kind of a preference? Do you like being in public school or did you like being in the art school?
Both. I think, I'm happy that I've had both experiences because I feel like I've learned different things from both. I feel like being in art school, you're around obviously a lot of kids who are interested in art, so you can learn from them. And I feel like it taught me a lot about acting and musical theater and music and art and, all of the different art mediums. I learned a bit about that going there. And I feel like I learned about art in different ways at public school and also just experiences, that's important in music to just have teenager experiences. And I feel like if I only went to art school, I wouldn't have a full, well-rounded high school experience. And if I only went to high school, I wouldn't have a full, well-rounded arts experience. So I feel lucky that I got to have both, but I feel like I made a good decision by going back to public school for this year.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad. I definitely I get that. Like I do get the merit of kind of like you don't want to be taken away from the kind of high school experience. Exactly how you said it. Like everybody should get their head flushed in a toilet once. I guess metaphorically, not figuratively.
Someone being like, "Your song sucks."
yeah, right. Look, I'm not one to give good advice or anything, but beat those people up. Just punch them clear in the face, and you will
I know.
teach them real quick.
I would never.
They'll be like, "I'm sorry, I did like your song. I just wanted to get punched in the face." At this time, would you like to go through the Jauntlet? I know these are some controversial questions and they're very hard, but are you?
Oh yeah.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. The one-hit wonders starting number 1, Billy Joel or Elton John?
Elton John?
Yeah, I like it. By the way, no wrong answers here. There is one wrong answer, and if we get to it and you answer wrong, then the lights will go off and we'll walk out of here.
Oh,
no, I'm just kidding.
So
I'm just kidding. No pressure. I could make an argument for every single person that I put on this list, and that is why they're on this list. That's what. So feel free to. I may shoot you a side eye on one of them, but only one. And we'll see if you can figure out which one it is. No, I'm just kidding. Number 2, Debbie Harry or Joan Jett?
Both.
Yeah. See that one's really hard. That one's, I think, the hardest question I've ever put together in my life. Number 3, Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner?
I can't choose between these two. Like I just cannot. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to tell you. Like I have to just say I can't choose.
Okay. Yeah, and there's no judgment here. As I said, except for one. There's no judgment here. So if you can't choose, also fine. These are legends and icons, and and it's very hard to pick.
It's very hard to compare artists. Everyone's different. So
it is very true. It is very true. Next one, Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Nirvana.
See, that was it. Wrong answer. No, I'm just kidding. Was it? No, it wasn't it. That wasn't it. That was absolutely. Yes, that is a very fine answer. The next one, Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks?
Both.
Yeah, that's I can allow that. Beatles or the Stones?
Also both.
Okay, that's a great answer. People very quickly say the Beatles, and it really offends me because I don't think it's an easy answer. I don't think that.
They're also just different. You can't compare artists in that way. If they're different, it's like there's something different to like about each. And I think that I feel like there's so much comparison of artists nowadays. It's like just they're their own thing. Just enjoy the difference in it.
I respect it. Look, I'm the guy who said displace the guilt, embrace the pleasure. So I shouldn't even be entering this negativity into the universe. You're right. You're right. You just picked out the fundamental flaw in my podcast. I hope you're happy. The very last one-hit wonder, Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven?
I hate to have the same answer, but not comparable. They're not comparable. They're just different.
Okay. This was actually the one, and the correct answer is Bohemian Rhapsody. Just keep that in your hat.
Yeah. I feel like if I had to pick, I would pick Bohemian Rhapsody, but I still feel like they're so different that I couldn't pick. But like Bohemian Rhapsody, the first time I heard it, I was like, I like ascended into a different universe. It
is literally a pop masterpiece. Like it's incredible. It's revolutionary. It's Bohemian Rhapsody. What am I going to say that 50 million people haven't already said about it?
Of course.
Okay, the next section is the top 10 countdown. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with the word Jawn. I'm being a area person. I'm sure you're very familiar. Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Just got to be clear sometime. But I use Jawn.
Imagine if I didn't know the word Jawn and I lived in Philly.
So you would be kicked out. Then if the kids in high school said something, I would allow it. And then we would not punch those kids in the face because they would be correct. No, but of course, but so this doesn't have to be music. It can be anything you want it to be. But number 1, what was your first Jawn? What was the first thing you found yourself obsessed with as a kid?
I am gonna say a song.
Okay.
The song Superman by REM, because that was the first song that I sang harmony to. So that was kind of a big deal for me. My dad and I were in a very long car ride, and he played the song on the radio, and he's like, "Oh, you want to try to sing harmony to this?" And I was like, "Sure." And so we spent, I kid you not, probably 2 hours singing harmony to Superman by REM.
That is without a doubt my favorite answer to that question I've heard yet. Like I'm not just saying that. Like that's an incredible moment, and I think that's awesome. Have you thought about covering Superman in your set? Because think about that.
You know what? I sang it so much as a kid, and I never even thought to put it in my set now, but I feel like I would have so much fun doing that. So that's a very great suggestion for me. Thank you.
I'm the suggestion guy. That and punch kids in the face. So I'm either really good question or suggestion or a really bad one.
Great advice, or maybe not. Maybe a little questionable, but
or maybe not. Number 2, what's your current Jawn? What are you into right now?
I really just want to spend time in the city recently. I just feel like there's so much going on in the city, and I've enjoyed spending time in the city with my friends. That's been my Jawn recently. Awesome.
I love it. Number 3, what was your first concert?
The Go-Go's.
That's an incredible one. Just to share, because I like to share, my very first concert was David Bowie, and my very second concert was David Bowie. I know.
Wow.
But yes, the Go-Go's. That's phenomenal. Where was it at?
It was at Keswick Theater.
Okay. I used to DJ across the street from the Keswick Theater. So
really? Oh my gosh. No way.
Yes, I did. Number 4, what was the last concert you were at?
Lizzo.
Oh man. Was it incredible?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was Lizzo. Come on.
Yeah, all right. I believe it. Number 5, what was your favorite concert? What's the best show you've ever seen?
Okay, it's really hard for me to narrow it down to a favorite, but I can tell you one that I really loved was Florence and the Machine.
Okay. Where at?
Oh my gosh. I forget where that one was. I'm embarrassed that I forget.
Okay. No, it's okay. Big
she just
big
looks
venue
like
or small venue?
I'm sorry? It was pretty big.
Pretty big. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, they are absolutely phenomenal, and her voice is just out of this world.
Yeah, she just like moves so fluidly too. It just, I don't know. It's really beautiful to watch.
That's cool. Very, very awesome answer. Number 6, who have you never seen live that you would love to see? They can be living or dead.
Etta James.
Oh, yeah.
I could have seen Etta James live, man. That would be so incredible. Yeah.
Fantastic answer. Fantastic answer. Number 7, name an unappreciated Jawn, something you wish had more exposure to it.
Well, I feel like the podcast Song Exploder, I mean, I feel like that is popular, but I feel like it's so amazing that everyone has to listen to it. Have you listened to Song Exploder?
Yes, 100%. That's that and Switched on Pop are like my 2. I don't know if you listen to Switched on Pop.
I don't, but I'm going to write that down.
Yes. Check it out. They just break down pop music, and kind of one of the things they do is the one guy is a music scholar and the other guy's a songwriter, and they kind of at times will like look at things that are successful in pop music that have been in music throughout the eternia of music. And there's like, I've learned so much just from listening to their podcast. They're a favorite, and I'm trying to get them on the show, but that's between you.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
But yes, Song Exploder. Do you watch the what is it? Netflix? Is that where he did the?
I was just talking about this with Maggie.
No kidding.
But yeah, we were just talking about how I have to watch it because I haven't seen it, and she was like, "You have to watch it."
Yes, 100%. 100%. Perfect answer. Number 8, what's your favorite album?
Currently my favorite album is Melodrama by Lorde. I just love it. I think it's awesome.
Fantastic. Number 9, name an artist whose output you will consume anything they put out, even if you have to be apologetic for it when it's bad.
Lorde.
Yeah. I
mean, I've been really into Lorde for like the past 2 years. I I don't know. I just love everything she does recently.
Yeah. What would you say is the main driving force behind that, songwriting wise or production wise, or just the whole package?
There's just something about her that feels really authentic, and I really connect to that element of it. I like how she moves. It doesn't seem too formulated, and I just feel like she's creating music that is genuine and unique, and I don't know, it's very beautiful, but it also has elements that are a little bit, I don't know, like imperfect, but in the right way.
Yeah.
It just is satisfying to me, and I think she's an excellent artist, and I don't know, I just admire her a lot, and
that's awesome.
Love her music. Yeah.
Awesome. The 10th and final question of the top 10 countdown. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is a tough one. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite Jawn of all time? Again, doesn't have to be music, can be anything you want it to be.
My favorite Jawn of all time is the piano, I think. Yeah.
I can definitely see that. Well, you and the piano make good friends, and you guys create very well together. So you said you're working on an EP next. Is there kind of a target for that, or are you just letting it kind of work naturally? When it gets there, it gets there.
Second option.
Yeah.
But if you stay updated on my socials, then, any details will be there.
Do you have like the songs behind it, or is that also still work? Like, are you still kind of creating?
We definitely got some songs that we know we're going to put out pretty soon, but it's all in the cooker.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell these good people who listen to this podcast where they can find you on the internet to give your socials out, man.
All right, you can follow me on Instagram, which my handle is I_am_Wallis. Wallis is spelled WALLIS. And then my Spotify is just Wallis in all caps. And then my YouTube is, if you just look up Wallis Lonely Christmas, I'm sure you could find my YouTube.
Find the YouTube that way.
Or imwallis.com. Yep, those are all my socials.
You just reminded me of something I completely forgot to touch on, which is the full capitalization of your name is a very awesome, interesting choice, and I am all for it. And there's a reason for it, and that is whenever I used to perform, I was Nate with all lower cases. So, see, we're like the yin and the yang, you're young, I'm old, you use capitals, I use lower cases. We're all here for it. Oh man. But no, honestly, thank you for doing this interview and stuff like that and talking to me. And also thank you for making such beautiful, beautiful music, including what is easily the most perfect reflection of the pandemic and where we were all at. I think you made something that is one of those. I don't. Again, it might be an old guy thing. Do you remember the VH1 shows like I Love the 90s and I Love the 80s and stuff like that? They would get. See, I'm throwing it over your head.
No.
That's fine. I'm gonna go hang myself after this. But anyway, so from old age hanging, it's fine. It's a thing. But they used to have these shows where they would just get like comedians and personalities to kind of talk about different decades that they loved and the things from them and stuff like that. And I think if anybody did, and I love the pandemic, well, I do think Lonely Christmas would deserve a spot in there because I didn't love the pandemic, but I did love that song and I thought it was awesome. So thank you for creating that, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much, Nate.
Anything else you would like to tell these dumb people who listen to my obsession, which is hearing myself speak week in and week out?
I hope you have a wonderful week.
Perfect.
That's what I hope.
Isn't she great? My thanks again to Wallis. Her latest single, Another Day, is available for purchase on iTunes and is streaming on Apple Music and Spotify. You can find more about Wallis at her website, www.imwallis.com, and on Instagram at I_am_Wallis. And find her videos for Another Day and her viral hit Lonely Christmas on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you are up for the challenge and you want to earn yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout Merit Badge for Citizenship of the World, you can do so just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/yothat'smyjawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at YoThat'sMyJawn and find the Yo That's My Jawn YouTube channel. We're going to be doing something new and fun with the YouTube channel in the near future, so make sure you like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out and touch some Jawn. Well, like the great Billy Joe Armstrong once said, when it's all said and done, it's real and it's been fun. Happy Thanksgiving, gang. May we all overdose on turkey. Blue skies. Until next time, everybody.
Hey yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be measured.
Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by Phil Tyler Music featuring Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Natalie Runkle, and the incredibly brilliant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com. Or you can leave an audio message for us and possibly hear yourself on a future episode by visiting anchor.fm/ytmj/message. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure and shout to the world, yo, that's my Jawn.